and welcome back to my channel. My name's Kizzy and today we're going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag, which is kind of like a rite of passageway on BookTube. It's one of the videos that I wanted to film when I first started BookTube, which was the end of last year, like a couple of days before Christmas. So it means I've been on BookTube for like half a year now, or over half a year because it's now July. So that's madness. I can't believe I've been doing this for so long. Yeah, so let's get into the video. I've read 33 books so far, which for BookTube standards doesn't seem like a lot. Like a lot of people have read already 50 books and stuff like that, but for me that's like already over twice the amount I read last year. So BookTube has definitely helped me increase the reading. Some of the questions I have doubled up answers just because they made sense in the answers, so I wasn't just going to make up a random answer that didn't really quite fit. But there you go, hope that's okay. So the first question is, what was the best book that I've read so far? This is a difficult one to pick, but I might pick two. Can I pick two? I'm going to pick two. So the two books that always spring to mind when this is like asked and stuff like that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. Two great books. If you haven't read them, you need to. So you probably, I mean, they're all over BookTube pretty much, so you probably already know what they are, but The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo follows Evelyn Hugo as she tells the story of her life as a Hollywood actress in the, I want to say 80s, yes, in the 80s, and all the story of her seven husbands, but it mainly is a romance between her and a fellow actress and kind of how they had to like maneuver around the sexism and kind of homophobia of the 80s in Hollywood. So it was an amazing book. I will talk about it again because it comes up again in another question, but it has to be mentioned twice. So the next book I did was The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. So this is just like a magical, whimsical, abstract, totally kind of trippy book almost, but it is beautiful. It is just like, I can see why some people wouldn't get on with it, but I think it's amazing. So again, this will come up in another book, so I'll tell you about it more later. So the next book I have is The Best Sequel. Now this is kind of like a default one because I looked through my Goodreads and I've only read one sequel to a series because I've read a lot of debut authors this year, so obviously they don't have a series or a sequel out yet, so I've literally only read one so far, which is pretty shocking because I'm normally a series reader. So the only sequel that I've actually read is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson, and this is like an odd one as well because the first half, I would say, was not my favourite. It was very slow, very kind of slow, wasn't my favourite, and everyone said like, oh, just keep going, like on all the reviews that I read of it, and I did, and then oh my gosh, the last half, or like maybe 1/3, was just incredible. It was so jam-packed of action and drama and all the juicy stuff, and I really actually liked one of the characters in this more than I did like. That didn't make sense, did it? So I really didn't like the main romance figure, Elend, in the first book. Really didn't like him. I just thought I didn't believe it basically, but he really comes into his own in this book. Like, he's a slow develop, but he really does kind of improve, and I actually really liked him by the end of it. So yeah, I would definitely, if you are like struggling to get through it, definitely keep going. I haven't read the third book in a series that is also on the list on a later question, but I like this. So new release that I haven't read yet. So a new release that I haven't read yet is Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty. This came out last month, I believe, and I was meaning to read it. I was going to read it straight away, but then I didn't, and I still haven't picked it up, and I've meant to be reading it at the moment, but I haven't been reading it the last few days because I got a bit addicted to Animal Crossing again. I seem to go in waves of it, so I haven't done any reading in such a long time. But I've read the prologue and that's it, so I definitely need to get cracking on this one. But The City of Brass is one of my favourite series so far. The first book was phenomenal, the second book was phenomenal. Not as good as the first book, but it was still pretty darn good, and I think this will be amazing. I've read a little recap online about what the last book was about, just so that I, you know, fresh mind, and I forgot how dramatic the ending was to that book, so I'm raring to go with this one, but I haven't read it yet and I need to. Biggest disappointment, what did I pick for this one? this wasn't released this year, but I read it this year. It's quite an old book, and it was the only one I could think of to pick because there are a lot of books that I think I personally was disappointed with, but I don't necessarily think they're a bad book, so I didn't want to include them with that one because I think that would, you know, negative stigma against them. But this book was just not good at all. Oh, I picked up the wrong one. Bear with. Oh, so Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart was terrible. It was released ages ago, so I don't know, can I talk about it here? Probably, maybe not, I don't know. This was released in 2017 and I picked it up probably around then anyway, and I picked it up because I really loved We Were Liars by her, but this was terrible. I'm really sorry, I'm not normally one to like properly slate books, but I really didn't get it. It just wasn't good. So it follows a girl who is kind of obsessed with this other girl, and you go in reverse order, so you start on chapter 19 and you go down to chapter 1, so you're going back in time, and I can see what they were trying to do, but because it was like meant to be a suspense novel, like it says a masterful suspense novel, it didn't work because you kind of, it was really predictable because you'd already seen what was happening or what had happened, so all the big plot twists I didn't think were that great because you kind of already had a really good instinct as to what was about to happen, so all the big dramatic moments I already guessed were going to come quite easily, so I just don't think it was very good. And it's only like 260 pages, so yeah, just save you the trouble. I wouldn't pick it up personally, wouldn't recommend, sorry if you loved it, but yeah, that was the biggest disappointment for mine. Biggest surprise, now okay, so the biggest surprise for me is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Now this is a book that has been really raved about on Bookstagram and BookTube recently, or I don't know about BookTube, but definitely on Bookstagram I've seen it everywhere, so I was going into it expecting it to be a good book, but the way it was a good book really surprised me. So I didn't go into it knowing anything about it. I just went into it knowing it was a contemporary. It's not really a contemporary, it's a like modern historical fiction because it's set in 1970s kind of time. And if someone had told me the storyline of this before, I would have like not picked it up because it does not sound like something I would enjoy at all. But I loved it. I think it's a beautiful story. It's lovely writing. I still reference it today, the little facts in it about the animals and the nature, which is really nerdy, but I think they're really cool. So this follows a girl called Kaya who has been abandoned by all her family, and she lives on a marsh near this kind of idyllic, kind of posh, not posh, but snubby little town that looks down on her for being a marsh girl, and she kind of has to live and thrive off the land, and she kind of just has to survive and just completely depend upon herself. And across the span of this book she meets two boys and she has different kind of relationships with them, and it's just her whole coming of age, becoming like a strong and just like, it's just a lovely book. You kind of read it and I always say this, like it creeps up on you how much you start to care for Kaya as a character and as someone you really want to do well in the world, and just, it's just a lovely book, and I would really like, it's really heartwarming. I would recommend it. It surprised me how much I loved it. I gave it 5 stars, so there you go. Fave new author. I'm gonna have to go with Brandon Sanderson because I feel like he's the only author I've read this year entirely new that I've actually really liked his books. So I read Elantris ages ago, right at the start of the year, and I loved that. I know a lot of people don't like it. I think I prefer it maybe slightly more than the Mistborn trilogy, which I know is a really rare opinion, but I really did like it and I would recommend it. I think it's a great place to start with him because I enjoyed it. And then I read Mistborn, which again I thought was good. It just didn't have quite what I was looking for or what I was hoping it would have. So it was still a really good book. I still think I gave it like a 4.5 stars maybe. And then obviously the second book, as I told you, it kind of was like half good, half not so great, but I really still enjoyed it still. Like even the not great bits I still enjoyed, but I didn't love. Does that make sense? I don't know. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Brandon Sanderson on that one. New fictional crush, I don't think I have one. Fave new character, I don't know, maybe Kaya from Where the Crawdads Sing, just because I think she's just so like, she just gets on with shit. She just gets on with life, even when it like chucks the worst at her. She just keeps going, she doesn't complain, she just keeps like, you know, getting stronger and better. So maybe her. Maybe Vin from the Mistborn series. I don't know. No one's jumping out at me for that question. I quite liked the romance in the like love interest in this. I can't remember his name. Dorian. Quite like Dorian in this. Maybe that one. There you go. Got a few there. Got a few. Okay, I'm just editing that just now and I just remembered another few. So from Crescent City, or House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas, that was out this year. Bryce, I think, she's pretty cool. She's a pretty cool person. But also in that, there's a little creature person called Lilibeth or Lilibel. I can't remember which one it is. But I loved her. I thought she was really good. And I cried. I cried at that moment. If you know, you know. I cried a lot of that as well. So that also ties into the next question that I forgot to put in. But yeah. A book that made you cry. Okay, so I got quite a few of these. I cried at The Song of Achilles. I sobbed my absolute heart out at The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Absolutely sobbed at this one. I cried a lot. I don't know how you read it and not cry basically, but I cried a lot. And yeah, okay, I think those are the two books that I've cried at this year. There you go. A book that made you happy. What's a book that made me happy? Where the Crawdads Sing Again. That made me happy. There you go. This also made me very happy. See, I know I'm talking about all the same books again, but there's like a small amount of books that have really made me like feel this year, so that's why they've been coming up a lot. Oh, The Song of Achilles, that made me happy a little bit as well, but also sad, so you know, you win some, you lose some. The most beautiful book, okay, I'm really sorry, I'm going to bring it up again, but it's literally the most beautiful book that I've owned in my whole lifetime, never mind just this year. It is just freaking phenomenal. I mean, I don't know how you can look at this and not think it's a beautiful book. I just don't get it. Like, it is stunning. It's a work of art, really. Like, I think it's the texture as well. It's like that silicone-y texture, so that just adds to it all. And this is beautiful. The spine, the back, the stenciled edges, and even when you take off the dust jacket. I mean, come on. It is just a work of art. It is a work of art. I don't know how you could choose anything else. I really don't. So this is just, it's just a beautiful book. The love of my life, basically, this book. I would recommend it to everyone. You have to read it. There you go. Book I need to read by the end of the year. So, oh, I've missed one. Most anticipated release. Did I do that? Don't think I did. Okay, so I think the most anticipated release I have is Troy by Stephen Fry. So this is a retelling again of the Iliad, but it's by Stephen Fry, and I absolutely adored his books on Greek mythology, heroes and mythos. If you haven't read them and you like Greek mythology, or even if you like Greek mythology or you want to get into Greek mythology but you don't really know, for example, if you're going to university and you know that you're going to be studying some Greek myths or kind of ancient literature at all, and you have no idea what it's about or very little knowledge of it, I think his Mythos is a great book. I wish I'd read that before going to uni because I didn't know much about it before going into it, and now I got like a real love for Greek mythology, but I wish I kind of just had that more understanding before going into it. And heroes as well, that will probably come up in your literature degree, or at least it did in mine, and it looks beautiful, like it looks stunning. So I pre-ordered the signed edition, so I'm so excited for that. That's my most anticipated release. And then a book, or the books that I need to read by the end of the year. There are so many that I need to read. Not even, I feel the pressure, because it's not even before the end of the year, but I feel like my end of the year is when my uni date starts, because then it's just, you know, it's uni work. I'm not going to get much reading done unless, you know, I do what I did last year and prioritise reading over actually uni reading. But it's my third year, so I feel like I should be more dedicated to the school, to the uni work, you know. So I feel like my end of the year is coming up very quickly, and I have so many books I want to read before the start of it. So I feel the pressure, but one of the books I want to read is A Thousand Ships by Natalie Haynes. This is another Greek retelling, ancient Greek retelling of the Iliad, so again, the same as what Troy will be, but this is told from the female points of view, multiple female points of views. I think strung into one narrative, but it could be loads of short stories, I don't know. Or it's a retelling of the Trojan War, which is what the Iliad is. I always say it's the Iliad, but maybe it's more specifically the Trojan War. I don't know if that was their source text or anything like that. I need to read this. Again, Empire of Gold, that needs to be done. Again, Hero of Ages, which is the third and final book in the Mistborn trilogy. There's so many books to read and not enough time, basically. So yeah, there's so many books. I feel like this was all over the place, this video, so I'm really sorry if it was, and hopefully it wasn't too bad. But I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you're, you know, what you thought on these books, if you've read them, if you want to read them. Answer some of the questions if you like in the comments. And yeah, subscribe if you'd like to as well. Please like the video, give it that thumbs up, and I shall see you in another video very shortly.